How's it going, Jack Tackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today, I'm going to be doing my review for Succession Season 4, Episode 8, which was titled America Decides. Now, going into this episode, it was kind of hinted at by Jesse Armstrong, the creator of the show, that this was going to be a very shocking episode, or at least he thought fans would be the most shocked by this one. And a lot of expectations were very high going into this one. There was a lot of crazy theories out there, and I didn't really buy into some of them because some were just a little wild. But, this episode was just very intriguing because we didn't know exactly what was going to happen other than the fact that it was election night. But, we didn't know what kind of chaos would ensue. But overall, it wasn't like super shocking, if we're being honest. There is some pretty big moments in this episode, and we'll talk about them in this review. And overall, let me just say, I loved the episode. I thought it was very, very good. It was a fantastic episode. It's one of the best in the season so far. Probably the second best after, of course, Connor's wedding. But, it's a good episode for sure, but, Jesse Armstrong maybe gave us some false hype a little bit. Just a little bit. I think maybe it was him trying to throw us off the scent of Logan dying in episode 3. He didn't want to say episode 3 was a big episode, so he just said episode 8. But episode 8, again, this was a pretty monumentous episode still, but I just think that's kind of interesting. This episode was just intense and hectic. It was very fast-paced as well. I was glued to the screen. I always usually am when it comes to Succession episodes, of course. But it was really intense, I love that. So it is election night, and basically we find out that it's between Jimenez and Mencken. And it's very sad, actually, in this episode. It was very sad that Connor's kind of low in the runnings, and it's kind of seen as a joke. I think Frank at one point says, jokingly, Connor's running for president? It was like, I mean, listen, I obviously kind of expected this to happen. I don't think anyone really believed that Connor would become president. I mean, maybe there was a few people, but not me. I mean, I love Connor, but it was kind of sad though at the same time, just seeing him put out that speech as well to everyone and let the con heads know that he's not going to be the next president. It was kind of sad, I guess. But basically, there are some absentee ballots that are kind of missing. They don't really know. In Wisconsin, Milwaukee, people don't really know the exact count, but then they decide that they're going to call Wisconsin, and they call it pending that they're calling it, but they're really calling it the amount of votes in that state. So basically, okay, let me just talk about this whole episode in terms of how elections are rigged. I mean, I guess people kind of already suspected that, maybe rigged's not the right word, but there's some tomfoolery going on, of course, but I guess people kind of already suspect this in our elections in the real world, that there's a lot of, shenanigans going on. It might not really be us voting 100% of the time. I mean, they kind of play around with things and then they kind of decide who should actually win the elections. And this episode was relatively eye-opening in that regard. I mean, yes, this is still a fictional story. We don't really know for sure unless you're in the business, but, everyone says, oh, elections are rigged, yada, yada, yada. But I really liked how that's kind of tackled in this episode, and to kind of show that basically they can just do whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, basically they really can pull strings and kind of decide what they want to do and can kind of go back and forth, because throughout the entire episode, everyone goes back and forth between Jimenez and Mencken, and Roman wants Mencken to win, of course, but then you have Kendall wanting Jimenez to win, and Shiv wanting Jimenez to win. But so they kind of clash. That's super intense as well. Roman, Shiv, and Kendall, they're all kind of clashing. But then, of course, one of the big reveals. Well, before we get into one of the other big reveals, we'll talk about the biggest reveal of the episode for sure, is when Shiv tells Tom that she's pregnant, out of the blue, nonchalantly. It was amazing. I mean, it was just so unexpected. I mean, obviously I did expect it to happen at some point, but the way it happened again was just so nonchalantly. And it's what the hell, man? It was crazy. But the best part about it is when Tom's is that even true? Oh my God. It was just hilariously sad, because it's dude, really? but he thinks it's like some sort of a tactic. And I can kind of understand where Tom's coming from, but it's like also like, bro, she's not lying about this, about her pregnancy. I mean, come on now. But that was very shocking moment of the episode. So if that's what Jesse Armstrong was alluding to, that this was kind of the shocking moment of the episode, yeah, for sure, man. I was just not expecting Shiv to tell Tom about that in that moment. Yeah, but I really loved how all that went down. But basically, then we see that Ken and Roman, towards the end of the episode, they find out about Shiv working with Matsson. And yeah, they don't take it well because Greg kind of already knew what was going on. And basically, Greg told Kendall what was up. And that whole moment where Ken and Greg are behind the glass and you see Shiv kind of just like piecing it together that Kendall knows. It's like, oh, shoot. But yeah, that was a really great moment. And then Kendall's kind of like, all right, we're going with Mencken now. We're going to call it for Mencken. And then Ken and Roman tell Tom to call it. And it was just like, what? I can't believe it. And it's almost like, I mean, there's a lot of variables here. There's a lot of factors going on. But it kind of seemed like Kendall just kind of decided that out of spite because he was kind of pissed off at Shiv. And understandably so, but also like I did feel bad for Shiv in this episode. You know, Shiv's one of my favorite characters, but also Kendall is my like number one favorite character. But you know, it's just like crazy because I don't know. I still feel bad for Shiv. I really do. And it looks like she's gonna try and fix it. I think she calls Matsson at the end of the episode and says that they're gonna fix this somehow. I don't exactly know, but it'll be very exciting to see what happens with all that. But yeah, Mencken wins. I mean, can you believe it? I don't know. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen throughout the whole episode, and that's kind of the genius of this episode. And it just kind of shows how intense elections can be and how close elections can be, and also some of the problems with elections because people just can kind of, these higher up people can kind of just decide. But yeah, the sibling alliance between Ken, Shiv, and Roman, it just kind of seems like that's over. At least Roman and Kendall are still together, of course, because they're CEOs, but Shiv's, you know, not handling it well with what happened with Mencken winning, of course. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why Ken did this. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, he's mad at Shiv, but also I want to mention before I end the review, the wasabi scene with Greg, and then he tries to put the like LaCroix in his eyes to make it feel better. By the way, I think that guy who got the wasabi in his eyes was in Breaking Bad. He played Elliot in Breaking Bad. But yeah, that was hilarious. And then he's like, it's not that lemony. Oh my God, I was laughing. That was without a doubt the funniest part of the episode. Oh my God, I loved that. But yeah, just a really fantastic episode. I loved this episode. It's one of the best of the season. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I cannot wait to see what happens next week because it appears that next week is the funeral, which is actually kind of weird because I thought the funeral was going to take place in the finale. So maybe they misled us a lot. I mean, the finale now, I don't exactly know what it is at this point because it looks like next week's the funeral. And the finale, I believe, is an hour and a half. So a lot of stuff can go down. But let me hear your thoughts on this episode in particular down in the comments below. What did you guys think about it? I'm sure a lot of people loved it because, you know, it was a big episode for sure. And yeah, I adored it. But yeah, let me hear some of your favorite parts of the episode, some of your favorite things, and what do you think is going to happen next and all that down in the comments. And if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and check out my Letterboxd and Twitter down in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.